So when this fight got announced, I was like, this is good for Aljamain Sterling, because if you look at the rankings in the featherweight division, it may like out of all the fights that would make sense for Aljo, it was either this one or Arnold Allen, and Arnold Allen. I mean, I don't know if he beats Aljo, but he's definitely a trickier matchup. I mean, he's a lot faster than Brian Ortega. He's a very good counter grappler if you watch the Movsar fight, and and he also probably has more power. I mean, I'm not 100% sure on that. But overall, I would say Arnold Allen is just. I don't know if he would beat Aljamain Sterling, but he just has a style much better suited to beating Aljamain Sterling than Brian Ortega. And even probably. Prime Brian Ortega doesn't beat Aljamain Sterling, and I thought Brian Ortega looked okay against Diego Lopez, but he also looked fat as fuck, right? And I think he took quite a bit of damage in that fight, so I don't think he's going to be at his peak here in this one. The reason I wanted to break this fight down, and I'll just say that before I get into the rest of the breakdown, is because I've decided I'm going to choose one fight on the card to break down to go a bit more in depth with than the others. And the main event to me is a very obvious pick of Zhang Mingyang by first round KO, right? So this was the most interesting fight to me because Brian Ortega actually has some advantages in this fight now. They're not enough. I'm pretty sure I've already made it clear I'm picking Aljo to win this, but I will say he has a chance, okay? And I think Brian Ortega's advantages in this fight, firstly, is punch power, right? Aljamain Sterling has never hit hard. He maybe is the least hard hitting fighter in the sport. I'm not joking. At 135, he never scored a knockdown, ever. Now we're at featherweight against a guy like Brian Ortega who has another advantage of having a better chin. Obviously, we know Brian Ortega has a granite chin, right? Aljo probably isn't going to be rocking Brian Ortega on the feet in this fight. If anyone hurts the other on the feet, it will be Brian Ortega, but I don't think he'll be able to do that. And the only other thing apart from power and chin, Brian Ortega I think has the advantage in, and this is this is close. This could go either way. Is just pure submission offense. Okay, they both. I would say the best guys they've submitted are for Aljo it's Sandhagen, and for Ortega it's Yair. And Yair, although he does get muscled around in the grappling, he doesn't get submitted. You know. Um, and he has very good BJJ, and he's quite crafty and hard to keep held down. Whereas that earlier version of Corey Sandhagen really hadn't developed his grappling yet. And also, I feel like with Corey, it's like he doesn't even really have good takedown defense. His grappling is more like when you get him there, he's going to be able to scramble out of it, which is kind of something you don't want to be doing against Aljo. You want to just be stuffing the takedowns, because it's quite hard to escape from under him. But with this fight, I'll start with the striking, right? I think Aljamain Sterling is a lot better skill-wise in the striking than Ortega. He's going to be faster. We know how it is when fighters move up a weight class. I know this is his third fight at featherweight, but usually with these lighter man skill things, it is around the time range of their first to their third fight where they look like the best and the fastest, and they're still probably going to look fast even if they stay in the weight class, right? For a long time. And I think Brian Ortega is not fast on the feet. Aljamain Sterling is pretty fast, and if you think about who's outstruck Aljamain Sterling, it's Peter Yan and Sean O'Malley, the two best strikers ever at 135 probably, or at least at the time period where Aljo was on top, where Aljo was in the division, right? Those guys are two of the best strikers ever in the division. And he won the first round against O'Malley. You know, he had success in the first and the second rounds against Yan, on the feet. So yeah, I mean, and I feel like Aljo would be considered a much better striker if he had power, if he had the ability to hurt people on the feet, but he doesn't really. But he's fast on the feet, decent boxing, pretty good kicking game. Ortega also has okay box. He has pretty good boxing, but I see Aljo being able to keep this at range. He's going to probably be oblique kicking. He's going to be throwing a lot of kicks. And when it comes to the grappling, Ortega just doesn't have very good wrestling. I mean, he can get you down. We saw that against Yaya, although Yaya did kind of gas in that fight at Mexico altitude. But Ortega can get you down. But I feel like when he's fighting a guy like Aljamain Sterling, he's not like Aljamain Sterling was hitting reversals on Movsariflov. I could see very much here Aljo hitting a reversal on Brian Ortega, and getting on top of Brian Ortega shoots. Maybe getting the back, I'm not sure though, because obviously Ortega does have elite jiu-jitsu. He's a very good grappler, right? But the speed advantage in the grappling is going to be here for Aljo. Even strength, like I think it might be towards Ortega, but is like still pretty big for this weight class. He's very ripped. He's mostly muscle, and Ortega's looked pretty chubby lately. So I don't know if he's going to show up looking chubby here. I expect he will. That's going to be a lot of his body weight. And yeah, I think Aljamain Sterling is going to win a 30-27 decision over Brian Ortega here, and move on to potentially fighting in the top 5, which I'm excited for. So yeah, I'm probably going to post my breakdown for the rest of this card. I don't know, I might. The fights I want to predict are the top 4 here, and then Lona Kavanaugh's fight, and then maybe Michelle Pereira, I guess, because he's pretty entertaining. But yeah, in a bit.